Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Horizon Europe Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Doctoral Network 2026 Call Information event. I'm Audrey Arfi, Head of Sector in the MSCA Doctoral Network Unit in the European Research Executive Agency, and I have the pleasure today to guide you through this information session together with my colleagues here with me. So Michaela Bitsakis, Head of Sector in the MSCA Doctoral Networks Unit in the European Research Executive Agency, Julien Jordani, Co-Coordinator in the same unit in the REA, and Sohil Luka, Senior Expert in the Policy Unit of MSCA in the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. So first of all, let me invite you to a very short poll in Slido. So you need to connect to slido.com. You have also the QR code maybe appearing on the screen. You can use the code DN, hashtag DN-2026. It's a very short, a small number of questions. So just to know a bit about you, who is with us today. Please, you can also start sending all your questions you may already have on the DN 2026 call using the same code. We will try today to answer most of your questions. If we are running out of time, of course, we will provide the answers to the most frequent questions in writing. Everything will be published after the event on the platform. In case your questions are a bit too specific, we will also make sure to answer all elements of your questions in writing. And please also double check all the questions that are already published to avoid too many duplicates. So another point and some housekeeping rules. In case you experience some technical issues with the RTD platform, be aware that you can also follow the event on the YouTube channel. I have now the pleasure to introduce the first speakers who will give you some introductory remarks. And I would like to introduce Klaus Haupt, Head of Unit of the MSCA Doctoral Networks Unit in the European Research Executive Agency, and Claire Morel, who used to be the Head of Unit of the MSCA Policy Unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. Klaus and Claire, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear stakeholders of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, dear national contact points, dear colleagues from the European Commission, a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today. On behalf of the European Research Executive Agency, it is a genuine pleasure to open this information event on the 26th call for proposals for doctoral networks under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. And I'm particularly glad that I can do this together with my colleague from the European Commission, Claire Morel.
Thank you, Klaus, and good morning to everyone. On behalf of the European Commission, the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, it's wonderful to be here. And indeed, as Klaus said, it is all about collaboration, dialogue, building links together. After all, this is what MSCA doctoral networks are about.
Exactly. So let us start with the basics. This is the sixth doctoral networks call in Horizon Europe. The call was opened on the 28th of May with a deadline for submission of proposals on the 24th of November. I'm pleased to say that all relevant documents have been published on the Funding and Tenders portal, the work program, the submission forms, the guide for applicants, so everything you need to prepare an application is already available.
The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, which are the main EU instruments to develop, to attract and retain talent in research and innovation. And doctoral networks are at the heart of what we have carefully designed to foster excellence, to promote international, intersectoral and interdisciplinary mobility and cooperation, and prepare fellows for accomplished careers, both inside and outside academia. But what I always find important to underline is that these are not arbitrary design choices. They serve the wider strategies of the EU in terms of competitiveness, innovation, and international cooperation. The project that we fund are genuinely building blocks towards those ambitions.
And the figures reflect the scale of that ambition. For this year's call, the budget stands at almost 595 million euros, and we expect to fund over 130 doctoral networks spanning all scientific disciplines, consistent with the bottom-up character of the action. And we will contribute with these projects to the training and to the skills of almost 2,000 doctoral candidates.
I think it's worthwhile remembering too that the positive impact of MSCA goes far beyond those numbers. Our end of fellowship surveys, and in particular those which are conducted 2 years after the fellowship ends, have consistently shown a substantial and lasting effect on researchers' career path. And not just on researchers, of course, but on the institution that hosts them, on the scientific culture around them.
And on that note, participation in MSCA doctoral networks is it's not just a funding opportunity. It is a commitment to a set of principles. Claire, would you walk us through those?
Gladly. Like all Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, doctoral networks must uphold fair and transparent recruitment, proper supervision, transferable skills training, career development, open science, equality and inclusion, and the building of sustainable links amongst research and innovation partners within Europe and beyond. And there is one principle that I want to highlight in particular, because it feels more important now than ever. It's the scientific freedom. Europe stands out as a haven for scientific freedom. It's not just a value statement. It's a commitment that MSCA closely adheres to, and one that sets our program apart on the world stage.
And building on that, one of the most strategic aspects of this program is what we call the structuring impact. These are the positive effects that outlast any individual projects, the spreading of excellence, the setting of standards for high-quality training, and the boost in international attractiveness and visibility for the participating institutions.
Exactly. Let's not forget the extensive involvement of the non-academic sector, which is one of the most distinctive features of the doctoral networks. The close integration between academia and industry, between research and real-world application is something we have worked hard to build into the design of the action.
On that point, joint doctorates and industrial doctorates remain a particular priority for us. But I want to be honest with you, the take-up has been declining. In 2022, 17.4% of main-listed projects were joint or industrial doctorates, and under the 2025 call, that figure dropped to just 9.2%.
And this is something we genuinely want to change. So this morning's session will clarify the incentives that we have put in place over the years, because we believe that joint and industrial doctorates can help participating organizations enhance their academic offerings, strengthen research capacities, foster international collaboration, and build strategic connections with the non-academic sector. There is a clear invitation from our side: engage more actively with these two implementation modes.
Agreed. And alongside that, there is a good overall stability in this year's call. The maximum grant size remains at 540 person month per project. For the joint doctorates, the maximum fellowship duration remains at 48 months, with an overall project duration of 60 months. The unit costs for living allowances were again raised, and some country coefficients were reviewed this year to compensate for inflation.
Indeed, Klaus, perhaps we should also mention the improvements we have introduced over the years. Since the first call in 2021, the program has evolved significantly.
Indeed. The 2023 call introduced increased grant sizes for the standard doctoral networks and extended the duration of the joint doctorates by an additional year. The 2024 call was another step ahead. We gave more flexibility for the award of joint and multiple degrees.
Yes, indeed. And to give a concrete example for this increased flexibility, it's now, for example, possible to have joint doctorate between a university in the EU and a university in Japan, Colombia, Australia, or Senegal. That is quite a meaningful expansion of what international collaboration can look like under MSCA. And these changes do not happen in isolation. Every year we collect input from project partners, national contact points, and the EU member states representative, and we update the work program accordingly. This program listens, it learns, it improves, and this year your feedback will be more timely than ever to feed into our reflection on the next generation doctoral networks in the framework of the next framework program.
Precisely. For the DN25 call, 1,616 proposals were submitted, an increase of over 50% compared to the first call in Horizon Europe back in 2021. That growth tells its own story about the quality and the attractiveness of the program. In addition, this year brings an important novelty that I'm particularly excited to share with you. Alongside the MSCA Doctoral Networks 2026 call, we are also launching the RAISE Doctoral Networks 26 call. RAISE stands for Resources for AI Science in Europe. This is a new pilot initiative under the Horizon Europe Cluster 4, which builds on the MSCA Doctoral Networks 2026 call and offers an additional funding opportunity for projects integrating artificial intelligence in scientific research and for projects developing cutting-edge AI tools, systems, and methodologies. RAISE DN represents a significant step forward in aligning doctoral training with Europe's strategic priorities in artificial intelligence. And we look forward to presenting it in more detail during today's sessions.
So what does this morning hold? The session ahead will walk you through the specifics of the 2026 call with a particular focus on the novelties and on the incentives for the joint and industrial doctorates. There will also be a Q&A session, and we encourage you to make full use of Slido to submit your questions.
Before we get into all of that, I would like to express a special word of thanks to the MSCA National Contact Points who are with us today. Your role in supporting applicants and in guiding beneficiaries through project implementation is essential, and we are very glad that you are here today.
Indeed, and we are both very excited about this year's Doctoral Networks call, and we hope that by the end of this morning you will feel the same, leaving inspired and ready to develop a strong proposal.
On behalf of the European Research Executive Agency
and on behalf of the European Commission,
thank you for being here, and we wish you a very fruitful information event.
Thanks a lot, Claire and Klaus, for the warm welcome and for giving us already a very good overview of today's event. So you heard about the few novelties that we can expect for this year, but also they presented a very insightful introduction on the MSCA program and its general objectives, and in particular on doctoral networks. So let's now have a look at the results of the poll, and let's have a look at who is attending the event together with us today. So we can see that we have many participants from Germany, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, Spain, Italy, but also UK, Denmark, Norway, Hungary. We also ask you who you were. So as potential applicants, it seems that almost 70% of you are potential applicants to Doctoral Networks 2026 call. We have also other stakeholders, 24%, but also a significant number of national contact points. And don't forget that all our national contact points can support you also during the preparation of your proposals. They also organize complementary events that can really help you also navigate through the call requirements and the preparation of the best proposal. The next question was about in which or from which organization type you're from today, and it seems that 62% of you are from a higher or secondary education establishment, while we have also a good 23% of research organization participants. We also have some attendance from the private sector and non-academic sector, which is also something that we expect in all our doctoral networks. You will know a bit more about that afterwards. The next question was about if you have any previous experience with MSCA Doctoral Networks calls, and it seems that this year we have almost half of you having already some experience with the DN call, while almost the other half with no experience. So which shows that we have many newcomers today with us. So this will be a very good opportunity for you to know more about all the requirements, all the tips and tricks you should pay attention to when preparing your proposal. And it's also a very good opportunity for all of you who have already some experience to have a refresh of mandatory and main requirements, and also to know more about all the incentives and benefits you can get in applying to doctoral networks in general, but also to industrial doctorates and joint doctorates. A quick reminder maybe on our agenda for this morning. So we will have now a full presentation of the Doctoral Network 2026 call, starting with a policy introduction and a very detailed presentation of the call in 3 different parts, including more details on the new pilot RAISE Doctoral Network 26 call in the last part of the presentation, and then followed, as Claire mentioned already, by a full Q&A session via Slido. So we will also have 2 short breaks, one after the second part of the main presentation and another one in the middle of the Q&A session. So we can now start the presentation, and I will give the floor to Sohail, who will give you some more background information on the policy objectives of the MSCA program. Sohail, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Audrey, and hello, everybody. I can have the next slide, please. So this year, we are celebrating 30 years of MSCA. MSCA is turning 30, and throughout these years, MSCA developed its signature principles and signature features. Of course, the core business is the training, skills, career development, and mobility of researchers. Another very important principle is the focus on excellence rather than a particular theme or a domain of science. This is what we call the bottom-up approach. So all topics and all disciplines and all fields of research are welcome. Another one is what we call the 3 I's: international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary. Intersectoral, we mean between academic and non-academic. Internationally, Horizon Europe has, of course, an international dimension, but MSCA is the most international action in Horizon Europe. Another very specific feature to MSCA is insisting on attractive working and employment conditions, and that researchers and fellows and doctoral candidates all must have a working contract like a normal job with, of course, social security rights, pension rights, leave rights, and so forth. Another important aspect that Klaus also mentioned earlier is what we call the structuring impact of the MSCA projects, which is mainly that when the project is over, is finished, its effects, its positive effects, would still be felt afterwards through establishing long-lasting collaborations, through establishing new rules in the involved institution for human resources practices or training trends. Finally, we emphasize the very, very strong collaboration with the industry and the SMEs. In the next slide, you will see that MSCA is part of the overall research and innovation strategy of the European Union, which is manifested into Horizon Europe, and every budget cycle lasts for 7 years. This one started in 2021 and will end in 2027. If we zoom further on the pillar where MSCA is situated, which is called Pillar 1, called Excellent Science, Horizon Europe dedicated 6.6 billion euros for MSCA throughout the 7 years. And before moving to the next slide, I cannot resist the temptation of highlighting what's mentioned at the bottom of the slide, that since 2012, MSCA had in its ranks so far 23 Nobel Prize winners between fellows and supervisors. And perhaps the 24th Nobel Prize winner is watching us right now in this broadcast. In the next slide, we see that we bring these principles I mentioned to life through 6 actions, using, of course, the budget I showed you. Doctoral networks, that you will hear a lot about, enjoys half of this budget. 50% of the MSCA budget go to doctoral network. But as you will see, MSCA also address researchers in various stages of their career through, number one, the postdoctoral fellowships. And then you have the staff exchanges, where staff in a particular consortium can actually exchange working visits amongst each other, with the added advantage that it's not only limited to researchers, but also to other staff involved in the research process, like research managers and lab technicians and the management of the research process in general. In co-fund, we, the Commission, we team up with organizations that have similar goals, and we leverage this critical mass and the scale to establish large cohorts of doctoral and postdoctoral programs. In MSCA and Citizens, we focus on the public outreach within the context of science, of course. And finally, we have a new action that was piloted last year, aiming basically at teaming up with other institutions to address the precarity of researchers' career through postdoctoral programs. And with this, I would pass the microphone back to Audrey.
Thank you very much, Sohail, for this nice policy introduction. We will now move on to the next part of the Doctoral Network 2026 call, and Julien will tell you more about Doctoral Network's details. Julien?
So thank you, Audrey. Welcome, everyone. So to start off, what are we talking about here? What is actually a Doctoral Network project? So Doctoral Network project, and before that proposal, is one consortium, so different organizations coming together that will propose a research project that has an overall coherence, of course. And this research project will have interlinked individual PhD research projects. Of course, those are not 10 isolated, siloed PhD research projects that are interlinked and feed into the overall research project. And this is for doctoral candidates. So what are the expected outputs of this program for doctoral candidates? And you will see later what we mean by doctoral candidates. So the idea is to train them to increase their career opportunities and employability. It's really about human capital development, really, MSCA. So the idea is to train them in research, so the training through research, but also training in other areas, transferable skills training, also always in this idea of increasing their career opportunities and employability beyond the lab work, so to speak. The idea is, as Sohail mentioned, the 3 I's, so they will have intersectoral secondments. The idea is that they see elsewhere how science is conducted. The idea is to have international mobility. So you will see later that these fellows, they need to undergo mobility in order to start their fellowship in these doctoral networks. The idea is for them to have a career development that is tailored to their needs and to their background and what they need for the job they want to do in the future, if they already know, that they are appropriately supervised. And of course, the nucleus of that is the individual research project that they will all have to undertake. Now, what's in it for you as participating organizations? So for you, the advantages is attracting talents. So through the recruitment of EU-funded doctoral candidates, you attract talent in your organizations. This is important for you for advancing your networking. So you, within the consortium, of course, you cooperate, and there's some knowledge transfers, know-how transfer between the participants, and also by doing so between sectors, between disciplines. This will strengthen your research and innovation capacity even further. And the idea is also to, the training program is very important, and to improve the quality, the relevance, the timely relevance and the sustainability of PhD programs. Now you saw what's in it for the fellows, what's in it for you. Why are we doing that? What's in it for Europe? I mean, we, all of us, actually. The idea, as I said before, is to strengthen Europe's human capital. So the idea is to foster and enhance talent and knowledge circulation via these 3 I's, so all this mobility between sectors, between disciplines, between countries, in the view of increasing Europe's, whoops, that went too fast. Maybe I speak too slow. This is to increase Europe's attractiveness, to ensure its competitiveness in the long run, through collaboration as well between organizations and sectors, to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. This all comes together with the intersectoral collaboration as well, fostering open science, and basically provide attractive researchers for them to have better employment conditions and attractive careers. Now, the strategic values of MSCA Doctoral Networks. So structuring effects, we talked about structuring effects already. So this is after the lifetime of the project. So you've done your project, it's over. What's happening now? The idea is to have a positive impact after that. So helping structuring the European higher education area and European research area, and the ripple effect catalyzing institutional culture with the examples that Sohail gave before. For instance, maybe fostering new ways of recruiting doctoral candidates, PhD students, for instance, or having more long-lasting collaboration. The idea is to being a trendsetter as well. So by running this project, you will be even further convinced that it's amazing to have this transferable skills training for your fellows, integrating non-academic sectors, providing career development plans, so to have the focus on the fellows, guidelines on supervision that are provided, and the Green Charter. Those are trendsetters for the project and beyond. And then again, the attractiveness of European programs. So wider access to courses, expertise, infrastructures, skills for innovation and long-term employability, widening career prospects. So making Europe an attractive place for all of this to happen. Now, in the next slide, we'd like to tell you about a study that was performed about the innovative dimension of MSCA ITNs. So for those new to MSCAs, so half of you might wonder, why are we talking about ITNs where the focus is on DN? So ITN was the name of DN in Horizon 2020, so the previous framework program. And we conducted a study on the innovative dimension of ITN. ITN stood for Innovative Training Networks. And what we saw was that these ITNs fostered link with the non-academic sector and the industry, leading to strong innovative outputs. And if we zoom a little bit more, we saw that the European industrial doctorates that were predecessor of the IDs now, the industrial doctorates now, we saw that there were a higher number of patents per project for innovation in the project that we studied. So there was a lot of innovation in all ITNs, but even more so in the industrial doctorates. Now, innovation, there's several types of innovation, and if we zoom out and we see other types of innovation beside patents, we see that there were other types of innovation in these ITNs and best practices that emerged. And this was the case for training practices, involvement of the SMEs and industry, and enhance collaboration between sectors, synergy aspects with other projects, other types of action, networking opportunities for doctoral candidates. Being in a network allow these PhD fellows to, more opportunities to network, and also social innovation in these projects. And the impact on the research career was confirmed by several studies and the fellows' questionnaires. Basically, at the end of their fellowship and 2 years after, there is a questionnaires that fellows should fill in. And we basically wonder what happened to them, and we can see that there was a positive impact on the professional development. It fostered capacity in research excellence, and all the practices that were designed as integral part of ITNs and DNs were likely to provide an ecosystem that's conducive to innovation. As Klaus and Claire mentioned earlier, there's a constant drive for MSCA doctoral networks to evolve from year to year, following consultation with different stakeholders. And you can see from 22 to 23, 24, and now that following feedback from various people, the program has evolved. And we'll say a bit more about that later, but we can maybe have a little teaser on the novelties for 2026. There's been more flexibility for the secondment for standard doctoral networks. So in the past, that was limited to 1/3 of the fellowship duration. Now it went up to 50%. There is now an individual evaluation threshold per criterion. You will see later that there are 3 criteria for evaluating your proposal. And in the past, there used to be one main threshold overall, and now there is a threshold of 3 out of 5 per criterion, which means that if you have less than 3 for one of the 3 criterion, your proposal is rejected. And there is now a new exception for all doctoral networks, and this fills the void or the gap where researchers, so doctoral candidates, were recruited by beneficiaries from non-associated third countries. So they could participate in the program, but they could not enroll their fellow in their own PhD program. Now it's possible in 2026. So if you're, I know I'm inventing, if you're a fellow from Argentina, if you're an organization from Argentina and you recruit a fellow in Argentina and you're in the doctoral networks, you can enroll your fellow in a doctoral program in Argentina, whereas it was not the case before. So that's a substantial innovation. So that was the why. Now we're going to dig a bit more into the details and the doctoral networks in practice. So it was mentioned before that doctoral networks is a bottom-up scheme, so a freedom of your choice of research. All the disciplines are welcome. Nevertheless, you still have to pick a scientific panel that you will submit your proposal to. So there are 8 scientific panels: life science, mathematics, physics, social science. I'll let you read the remainder of the... It's not by order of importance. I want to put this disclaimer here. And you will see that there's 3 types of actions. We mentioned them in passing. You heard about joint doctorates, industrial doctorates. So there are 3 types of action, and all 3 types of action compete within the same scientific panel. So within the scientific panel, all proposals compete together to get the funding. Now, types of actions, here you go. Sometimes we refer to those as implementing modalities. Type of action is the formal thing, but we might use them interchangeably. So the standard one is the doctoral network. That if we just say doctoral networks, it means the standard one, providing training in academia and or in the industry. There is a type of action that's called industrial doctorate, and as the name suggests, there's more focus on the industrial side, actually the non-academic side of the training. And here there should be joint supervision of each fellow from the non-academic and the academic sector. And then the third type of action is joint doctorates. And here the idea is that each fellow should be enrolled in a joint or multiple doctoral degree. Multiple starts with 2, in case you're wondering. And the idea is that there's more of a structuring aspect here because there's joint selection and supervision of the fellows. There should be, of course, the setting up of these multiple or joint degrees. And at the proposal stage already, you should submit a pre-agreement for these joint degrees. And it's important that this is in the proposal. This is an eligibility criterion for joint doctorates. We talked about academic sector, non-academic sector, joint degrees. What does that all mean? So let's start with the academic versus non-academic sector. So this is the MSCA definition. Academic sector is defined as public or private higher education establishment, public or private non-profit research organization, or international European research organization. You will see here that you should not confuse academic with public, right? Because you see here that a private non-profit research organization is labeled as the academic sector. So academic does not mean public. A non-academic sector is a definition by exclusion, if you will. So it's any actor that's not included in the academic sector, right? So it's important to realize that it's non-academic does not mean private necessarily, and academic does not mean public necessarily. Now, there are 2 ways to participate in these proposals and later on in these actions. It's either as a beneficiary or as an associated partner. There's 2 levels of involvement, if you will. So the highest level of involvement is a beneficiary. So beneficiaries can be academic or non-academic, and they sign the grant agreement. They recruit the doctoral candidates, and they are the only ones that are allowed to recruit the doctoral candidates. But they should recruit at least one. They train and host the researchers, they participate in the supervisory board, and they claim costs directly to us. Now, there's a second way of participating is to be an associated partner. So associated partner is a bit lighter in the sense that an associated partner does not sign the grant agreement, but there's 2 sides to that coin. As an associated partner, you cannot recruit the researchers, but you can still participate in the project and, provide training. You can also participate in the project by being a secondment receiver. So you can host seconded researchers as an associated partner, and you don't directly claim costs, but you will see later that indirectly there's the possibility to redistribute parts of the funding, to pay for the fact that you would train or you would host seconded researchers in the project. And finally, joint, double, multiple degree. Thanks. So a joint degree is simply a single diploma. So a joint single diploma issued by at least 2 higher education institutions and recognized officially, obviously. And the difference with a double or a multiple is that instead of 1 single diploma, you have 2 or more separate national diploma. But they have to be recognized, one another, of course. And again, if you go for a joint doctorate, you have to provide a letter of pre-agreement in your proposal. It's in the part B2. You will see it in the template. There is a template there. You just have to fill in the template. Now, in the next slide, that's the FAQ. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julien, for this first part of the presentation. We will have now a few frequently asked questions. Those questions are not invented. They came from previous questions from you, and they are all published already on the call page on the Funding and Tenders portal. So let's have now and see the first question. Can a consortium submit the same proposal in several scientific panels? And I think Michaela will answer.
Indeed, yes, and good morning from my side as well. So as Julien said during his presentation, I mean, you absolutely need to select one scientific panel, and you cannot submit the same proposal in several scientific panels. If you are actually worried that because of the interdisciplinary nature of your proposal, it needs to be submitted in different scientific panels, please rest assured that we will make sure that when your proposal is submitted in one specific scientific panel, we will select the right experts with the right expertise to evaluate your interdisciplinary proposal. And one last thing, which is also very important, is that we will also check after the call deadline that you haven't submitted the same proposal in several scientific panels.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Let's now have another question. Under Horizon Europe DN 2026 call, are resubmissions of MSCA-DN 2025 call allowed? And I think this question is for Julien.
Thank you, Audrey. So the answer is it depends. Resubmissions are in principle allowed from 2025 to 2026, except if last year in 2025, your proposal received a score of less than 80 over 100. So if last year you scored less than 80, you're not allowed to resubmit a similar proposal in 2026. Now this is from 1 year to the next, so it means that in 2027, you will be allowed to resubmit your proposal that scored less than 80 in 2025. Otherwise, you cannot.
Thank you, Julien. Let's have a third question before moving on to the next part of the presentation. So what is the added value of applying to a MSCA industrial doctorate? And I think, Sohail, you can help us.
Yes, so the industrial doctorates, to start with, has, of course, all the added value of a normal classical doctoral network, the base structure. In addition, there is a win for all involved. You have the doctoral candidate getting the chance of spending at least 50% of the fellowship duration at a non-academic premises. This way, they can learn, of course, aspects of the non-academic discipline they are going to, aspects that one can never learn from a training, let's say. They are living the non-academic experience. And of course, this helps a lot for their job and career market afterwards. And indeed, we see that almost 70% of the doctoral candidates who were part of industrial doctorates end up working in the non-academic sector. Secondly, for the university itself that is awarding the degree, an additional advantage for them is that they establish often long-term collaboration with the non-academic partner that is involved. For the industry, of course, they have access to talent and access to knowledge that is already readily available. They don't have to develop it themselves. Lastly, I just want to highlight that although the name is industrial doctorate, it actually applies for any non-academic sector, meaning that the doctoral candidate might actually have their non-academic partner and the non-academic supervisor based in a hospital or a museum or an NGO or even a department in a ministry of a government. And I think it's always important to highlight this because of the name industrial doctorate.
Indeed. Thanks a lot for the precision, Sohail. So let's now move on to the second part of the presentation, and Julien will tell us more about all the eligibility conditions for applying to doctoral networks. Julien?
Thank you, Audrey. So now we go into details. what are the eligibility conditions? First, eligible countries. So obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but all member states and associated countries, countries associated to Horizon Europe are can be part of a consortium as beneficiary or associated partner. But actually, it goes more than that. If you actually see the Horizon Europe program guide, Horizon Europe is open to the world. You will see that there's a number of what we call third countries. So third countries just mean countries that are not member state and not associated to Horizon Europe. So third countries are different types of third countries. And there's a list of countries that are low and middle income countries, the list you can find in the Horizon Europe program guide, that can participate to the program and receive funding. So that they can be beneficiary and they can receive funding directly. Now, if your organization is from a third country that does not appear in this list, it doesn't mean that you cannot participate. You can participate, but normally you're not eligible for funding. And in exceptional cases, so this will be assessed by the evaluators during the evaluation of the proposal, it is possible that the evaluators deem that the participation of your organization is essential for the project, and in that case they could propose or advise that your organization is funded, and in that case that would happen. Otherwise you can still participate, but from your own funds. As an associated partner, anyone can participate because they do not receive funding directly from us. So any country, any organization from any country can participate as an associated partner. This is for sure. International European Research Organization are eligible for funding as well. Typically other international organizations are not eligible neither, like WHO, for instance, but they follow the same rule as high-income third countries, meaning that if their participation is essential for the project, then the expert could advise that we fund them. So that was for the countries. Now, zooming in about participants. So who can apply? Any legal entity worldwide. So as I said before, not all applicants are eligible for funding. So if you're a high-income organization from a high-income third countries, you can be eligible for funding only exceptionally if the experts evaluating your proposal deem it as such. It's important to realize that you should submit as a consortium. So this is not a program for individual organizations. And I insist on that because, unfortunately, every year we have one or two individual persons applying for doctoral networks, and we feel sorry for them because we don't even evaluate them. It's not eligible, but we feel sorry because you spend time building out your proposal. So if you're a single organization, this is not for you. If you're a PhD applicant, this is not for you. This is really for consortia. So you need to be at least 3 independent legal entities from 3 different EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries, and one of these 3 must be from an EU member state. All right. So could be Belgium, Switzerland, and UK, for instance. This is possible because one of them is an EU member state. There are some restrictions for some organization, and I invite you to have a look at the Annex B of the general annexes. All of these documents are on the call page, and this is for the protection of European communication networks and also the participation of Chinese universities linked to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. So those entities are not allowed to participate. For more details, I invite you to have a look at the Annex B. What is the eligible size and duration for the project? So you have to distinguish 2 different things, which is the duration of the project, so the network as such, and the duration of the fellowship. As we said, you're going to propose a coherent research project, and then when the project starts, you will need to recruit doctoral candidates. And these doctoral candidates, we have a fellowship duration. So there's two different durations here. So for the whole network, it's maximum 48 months, so 4 years, for doctoral networks and industrial doctorates. For joint doctorates, this duration extends to 60 months, and the reason is that for DN, for standard doctoral networks and industrial doctorates, the fellowship duration, so the contract you will give to each doctoral candidate, is maximum 36 months, except for joint doctorates in which they can go up to 48 months. So you see that there's a 1 year difference between the network duration and the fellowship duration. That means that you basically have up to 1 year to recruit the fellows that are going to work in the project. These fellows are going to work at the beneficiaries that recruited them, but they can and should also go on secondments. So worldwide, any sectors, they can go on secondments to other beneficiaries and also to other associated partners, right? And they can go on secondments up to 50% of their fellowship duration. So for a standard doctoral networks, they can go up to 18 months in secondments elsewhere. It doesn't have to be in one block, it could be several blocks, summing up to 18 months. For IDs and JDs, there is no secondment limitation. They can go on secondments for as much time as needed. And the size for each and every doctoral networks, whatever is the type of action, is 540 person month. There is no minimum or maximum number of associated partners. You can have as many as needed. But the 540 person months puts a cap basically to the size of a consortium, because all beneficiaries must recruit at least one doctoral candidate. Host and supervise them in their own premises or used associated partner linked to them to do so. So if you do the math, 540 person month, 36 month maximum for a standard doctoral network, that's 15 fellows. So assuming that, you know, they all recruit only one, there cannot be more than 15 beneficiaries in a project, right? There's also a kind of a cap for budget allocated to the same country, so to ensure that there is some, geographical diversity in the consortia, there cannot be more than 40% of budget allocated to the same country or to a single international organization, right? It's important to note it's 40% of the budget. It's not of the person month, right? Because you will see later that depending on the country correction coefficient for the salary of the fellow, so some countries are more expensive than others, so you have to look at the budget. And as was said before in the FAQ, there's a resubmission restriction. If you submitted a proposal last year in 2025 and it received then less than 80, you cannot resubmit in 2026. Of course, you can resubmit in 2027. And be aware that there are specific eligibility conditions for industrial and joint doctorates. I take this opportunity also to guide you to, but we'll repeat it at the end, there is a guide for applicant as well on the goal page that sums up also, that summarizes these eligibility conditions. Now, industrial doctorates, there was a question, what benefits? From the inception of the program and also through different, stakeholders' feedback, the benefits is really innovation. The cycle of innovation is a bit stronger in the industrial doctorates. It increases the competitiveness, enhances the intersectoral mobility. It usually leads to more patents. That's usually the benefits of industrial doctorates. Now, as we said before, there's no limitation for secondments, but each fellow must spend at least 50% of their time in the non-academic sector, right? So if they have 36 months, they need to spend at least 18 months in the non-academic sector. It's minimum 50%. I say that because sometimes there's a confusion that some applicants think they need to spend 50%. No, it's minimum 50%, so they can spend 60 if they want to. They have to be enrolled in a PhD in a member state or associated countries among the awarding entities, and they can be enrolled in an academic sector as a beneficiary, or they can be recruited fully in a non-academic sector as beneficiary, but the industrial or the non-academic component can be as an associated partner. So the minimum 50% in an academic sector could be done fully as a secondment in a non-academic associated partner. Academic and non-academic organizations should jointly supervise the fellow. Now, joint doctorates, what benefits? So there's more structuring effect here. So we expect more doctoral program sustainability, talent collaboration, interdisciplinarity, and career prospects. And if we go to the next slide, you see that here the incentive for joint doctorates is that the fellowship is now up to 4 years, so 48 months. So each fellow can receive a fellowship of up to 48 months, and then the network duration increased to 60 months. There is no limitation for secondments, and the fellows need to be enrolled in a joint, double, or multiple PhD delivered by different entities from at least one member state or associated country. As we talked about structuring effect, within the project there should be joint admission, selection, training, supervision, and governance of all the doctoral candidates, and there's a mandatory letter of pre-agreement to deliver this joint or double or multiple degree in the proposal that you have to fill in. We don't have any preference whatsoever between joint, double, or multiple. Pick what you want. Now, eligible researchers, so you will need to recruit those researchers that we will call doctoral candidates, but there are eligibility conditions for these researchers. You cannot recruit whoever you want. They must be doctoral candidates. That means they should not already have a doctoral degree at the date of recruitment, right? This is not a postdoc program. They have to be recruited following an open, merit-based, and transparent recruitment, and it's important. This has to be, you need to keep an audit trail on that, because this can be audited. There should not be any conflict of interest. Please avoid recruiting your best friend's son or daughter. And there's a mobility rule. So we talked about mobility, international mobility. To be eligible, say you're an organization in Germany, because there were lots of German participants here. If you're going to recruit a fellow, this fellow should not have resided or carried out their main activity in Germany for more than 12 months in the last 36 months before the recruitment date. So they have to undergo mobility in order to be recruited. Once they are recruited, they will need to be enrolled in a doctoral program in at least one EU member state or associated country. As we said earlier, there's a new exception from this year onwards, whereas if a fellow is recruited by a beneficiary established in a non-associated third country, so we picked Argentina before, we can change country, say, I don't know, you have an example?
Colombia.
Colombia. Okay, we stay in South America, but Colombia. Now, if you recruit a fellow, you're a Colombian organization, you recruit your fellow, you can enroll your fellow in a doctoral program in Colombia. So this is a novelty this year. The fellows can be of any nationalities, right? So this doesn't matter. And national persons established in Russia, Belarus, or in non-government-controlled territories of Ukraine are not allowed to participate in the Marie actions.
Thank you, Julien, for this very detailed presentation, especially focusing on the eligibility conditions. So let's have now 3 short questions that you can also find on the Funding and Tenders portal. And let's see the first question. In a joint doctorate, is it possible for one of the degree awarding institutions to be based in a non-EU country that is not associated with Horizon Europe? And I think, Julien, this is for you.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that was 2 slides ago. So yes, it is possible for one of the degree awarding institutions to be based in a non-EU country that is not associated with Horizon Europe, if that's where, from a beneficiary that recruited the fellow. So to take an example, for instance, if you're a Colombian entity and there's a consortium with other organizations, but Argentina is not part of the consortium, you cannot have a joint degree between Argentina and Colombia and Belgium, for instance, because Argentina is not part of the consortium, right? So you can only, for the beneficiary recruiting the fellow, and this beneficiary is from a non-associated third country. Now, one of the several degrees in which the fellow is enrolled can be from your country. I don't know if that was clear. Otherwise, please feel free to ask again in Slido.
Yes, but this was coming from some flexibility introduced in 2024, where we could allow joint or multiple degree from at least one entity based in member states or associated country to Horizon Europe. So giving some more flexibility to those participants who could have joint degrees between one non-associated third country and another EU member state or associated country. The second question is how can the minimum 50% time spent in the non-academic sector be achieved in an ID, industrial doctorate, for a doctoral candidate? And I think it's for Michaela.
Yes, indeed. So again, here I'm going to refer you to the presentation of Julien, because he actually explained the incentives we have for industrial doctorates. So the first one is, of course, each doctoral candidate will need to spend 50% of her or his time in the non-academic sector. And the non-academic sector can participate in industrial doctorate either as beneficiaries or as associated partners. So let's say that they participate as beneficiaries, they can recruit the doctoral candidate. The doctoral candidate can stay 50% of his time in the non-academic beneficiary, or more, like 100%. Or the doctoral candidate can be recruited by an academic beneficiary and be sent in secondment for 18 months, 50% of his time in the non-academic sector, which would then participate as associated partner. So it's really up to you to find the best configuration for your network, to see what is interesting and how it is interesting for you to set it up with regards to what you want to submit in a proposal.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Let's now see the last frequently asked question for this part. Can researchers recruited by beneficiaries established in non-associated third countries be enrolled in a doctoral program in that country?
Yes, I confirm. Until the call of last year, this was not possible. Maybe what I will add is that for an institution that is not EU country and not in a country associated to Horizon Europe, can be beneficiary, as Julien said, either automatically, if that country is either low or medium income country, or via exceptional funding when it's judged that the participation of such institution is essential for the project, either by having some kind of special infrastructure like a supercomputer or a collider or something, or special habitat like in the Amazon, for instance, or maybe an access to a tribal community that they only have. Now, if they become beneficiary one way or another, then as of the call of this year, institution based in such country can be the degree awarding institution.
And this is a big novelty for this year, giving some more flexibility indeed.
Yes. And maybe let me take the example of Ecuador. Just to stay
in South America. Yeah. Thank you, Sohail. So before continuing with the last part of the presentation, let's have a short break. You can enjoy a coffee, tea, whatever you want. And let's resume the session in 10 minutes. Feel free also to continue submitting all your questions on Slido with the hashtag DN2026 or the QR code appearing on the screen. And see you in a very few minutes. Thank you.
The aspect I'm most proud of, if I look at the first 30 years of the MSCA program, is the community that the program has been able to build. Over 150,000 recipients, 24,000 of which are gathered together in the Alumni Association. And this is a fantastic community that testifies the value of the program because it's a community that crosses borders. Disciplinary borders, geographical borders, sectorial borders.
So, happy birthday, MSCA. Please, my wishes for you is, or it's more of a request, stay focused on the brilliance of the young minds and grow as far and as large as you can because your work is so tremendously important.
So what we wish for the future, and I think what is also crucial and fundamental for MSCA is to keep our bottom-up approach, meaning that we still need to give this freedom in research and let the researchers choose freely their research topic.
I wish for the MSCA program to become even more inclusive because inclusion has been a fantastic trait, a defining trait, but it could be even more. In this situation, global situation, inclusivity is so crucial, and the MSCA program can become a beacon over the next 30 years for openness, inclusivity, and fostering groundbreaking research.
I hope the future of MSCA will be more focused on outreach activities because outreach activities make science sustainable on the long term, which I think is what we need in this very moment.
So yeah, I just wish to the MSCA to be able to fund as much people as possible that can enjoy what I've been able to enjoy, and also to stay very bottom-up approach because this is where we can trigger the most creative mind.
The aspect I'm most proud of, if I look at the first 30 years of the MSCA program, is the community that the program has been able to build. Over 150,000 recipients, 24,000 of which are gathered together in the Alumni Association. And this is a fantastic community that testifies the value of the program because it's a community that crosses borders, disciplinary borders, geographical borders, sectorial borders.
So, happy birthday, MSCA. Please, my wishes for you is, or it's more of a request, stay focused on the brilliance of the young minds and grow as far and as large as you can because your work is so tremendously important.
So what we wish for the future, and I think what is also crucial and fundamental for MSCA is to keep our bottom-up approach, meaning that we still need to give this freedom in research and let the researchers choose freely their research topic.
I wish for the MSA program to become even more inclusive because inclusion has been a fantastic trait, a defining trait, but it could be even more. In this situation, global situation, inclusivity is so crucial, and the MSCA program can become a beacon over the next 30 years for openness, inclusivity, and fostering groundbreaking research.
I hope the future of MSCA will be more focused on outreach activities because outreach activities make science sustainable on the long term, which I think is what we need in this very moment.
So yeah, I just wish to the MSCA to be able to fund as much people as possible that can enjoy what I've been able to enjoy, and also to stay very bottom-up approach because this is where we can trigger the most creative mind.
Welcome back to our Horizon Europe Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Doctoral Networks 2026 call information event. And let's continue immediately with the third part of the presentation that Julien will give us, and he will guide us through the funding mechanism, the RAISE DN new pilot call, as well as a few more details on the evaluation criteria and the process of our evaluation. Julien?
Thank you, Audrey. So yes, bear with me for still a bit of time. About the funding mechanism, good news, the funding mechanism for doctoral networks, as is for the other MSCA funding scheme, is fairly easy, is based on units. So unit costs. So fairly simply, 1 person month is 1 unit. So if you have a fellow that worked for 36 months, that's 36 units. And the total costs from your organization is the cost per unit times the number of units. And we pay 100% of that for eligible beneficiaries. So there are different cost categories, the researcher's cost that go to the doctoral candidate, and the institutional costs, that is for running the project. Now, if we go more in details, these are the different cost categories. So the one on the left is for the doctoral candidate. For the fellow, we will use these terms interchangeably. So the living allowance is the salary of the fellow. The mobility allowance, it's important to say that this must go to the fellow every month. So they had to undergo mobility to take up their position as doctoral candidate in your project. Otherwise, they would not be eligible. So because they went through this mobility, they must have the mobility allowance, family allowance, if they have a family either at the time of recruitment or if at some point during their fellowship they become entitled to the family allowance, then it's possible that they start receiving it. So this goes to the fellow, and all of this must go to the fellow. Now, the part on the right is basically the cost to run the project. So it's divided in 2 parts, the research, training, and networking contribution, and the management and indirect contribution. So for each month that a fellow worked, you get this, you sum all of this, and this is what you get. Now, a small, important distinction, the living allowance, there's a little asterisk there because there's a country correction coefficient. We said earlier that some countries are more expensive than others. So depending on the country of your organization, the fellows will receive more or less than that. And also this is the gross amount. This is not the net amount. This is including employers' contribution and employers' tax and employees' taxes as well. Now, about this new pilot, RAISE DN, that is fresh from this year for the 2026 call, Resources for AI Science in Europe. So that's what RAISE stands for, Resource for AI Science in Europe. And this is basically an additional chance of funding for those DN projects that aim to apply AI in their scientific research, and for those focused on developing new AI tools, systems, and methodology. So there is a call page for RAISE DN where you will have the exact topic description of what it means what is the topic behind RAISE DN. There is an indicative budget of 30 million euros. This is funding that comes from a different pillar. So he was mentioning Pillar 1, Excellence, where Marie Skłodowska-Curie is, and this comes from Pillar 2, so a different pillar. And the call for proposal state is exactly the same as DN. So this is a DN proposal that tackles a specific topic, right? It's important to realize that. How to apply? Well, if you go to the RAISE DN call page on the funding and tender portal, the link actually, the submission links redirect you to the Doctoral Networks 2026 call. Because you apply to if you want to apply to RAISE DN, you apply to the DN 2026 call. The same eligibility condition, same features, same types of action A RAISE can be a doctoral networks, an industrial doctorates, a joint doctorates. All of that stays the same. Rule, size, everything is the same. So you apply to a DN, right? And then, if you're interested to apply as well to RAISE DN, so you apply to DN, but if you want to also apply to RAISE DN, you need to opt in, and opting in is done through filling in the dedicated section in Part B2. So in Part B2, there is a new section, I think it's section 11, where you have to explain in maximum 1 page, you have to justify how your proposal fits the topic description of RAISE. Okay, so by filling in this section, you both opt in. So if you don't fill anything, we consider you didn't opt in. So by filling in this section, you opt in and you justify how your proposal fits the RAISE DN. If you're not interested in RAISE DN, you don't need to fill anything in that section. Please leave it blank. And you need to fill that in. Then, if we go back to the end, the award criteria, as we said before, there are 3 criteria on which you will be evaluated, your proposal will be evaluated. That's excellence, impact, and implementation. And here you will see the specific sub-criteria for DN. So as you might know, for specific research funding schemes, there are different sub-criteria. So those are the ones that we use for doctoral networks. And the novelty here is that for each criterion, there is a threshold of 3 out of 5. So that means, in practical terms, even if you had a top score of 5 out of 5 in excellence and impact, if you have less than 3 in implementation, your proposal is rejected. So there is a weighing of the different criteria: 50% for excellence, that counts more as impact for 30%, that counts more than implementation for 20%. And in MSCA, all of that gives a score out of 100. So it's not out of 15, it's out of 100 with the weighing of the different criteria. How are the evaluation run in practice? So, the call was just open last week. Now you're submitting your proposals and you have until the 24th of November to do that. Then when the call deadline has elapsed, then we receive the proposal, we check whether they are eligible or admissible, and then we allocate the proposals to the evaluators. So we have a very large pool of evaluators we can count off that span wide array, that span all the disciplines basically. And the first part is individual evaluation. So in the first part, each proposal is given to 3 different experts independently, and none of the experts know who the other 2 are, so they work individually on their proposal, the proposals allocated to them. Obviously, before that, when we allocate proposals to evaluators, we ensure that there is no conflict of interest between these experts and your particular proposal. And then they assess this proposal according to the evaluation criteria that were in the previous slide, and they submit an individual evaluation report. Then comes the consensus stage. So your proposal is not assessed as a collation of 3 individual assessment report. This is a result of a consensus. So the 3 experts, they come together, they discuss, and they agree on a common position, again with the evaluation criteria that were displayed before. They agree on a common position, a common text, and a common score. So it could be that by discussing, they see the proposal from different angle, especially for interdisciplinary proposals, and they can revise what they thought in the individual, in their individual report. They have to agree on a different set of comments and scores. Then comes the panel review, and this is where we invite experts to Brussels for a week. And here, basically, everything is rechecked for consistency across the evaluation. So to ensure that all the proposals were treated the same, that there is a level playing field for all the applicants, if necessary, resolve cases, if there are cases to resolve. And this is at that stage that the RAISE DN evaluation will kick in. So first and foremost, your proposal even if you opt in for RAISE DN, first and foremost, your proposal is DN proposal, right? And then during the panel review, experts will assess this one-pager, maximum one page that you filled in part B2. So proposals that wrote something in this part, we will consider that they opt in, and the experts will assess your justification and assess its relevance to the RAISE topic, okay? And there will be a separate ranking of the RAISE proposal. So these two are in parallel, more or less. I mean, you're applying to a DN and also to RAISE. So your proposal will be in the ranking list of DN and the RAISE proposals. Now, in practice, what will happen is that not all the proposals will be assessed for RAISE, right? There will be an enlarged reserve list of the DN proposals that opted in for RAISE that will be assessed during the panel review week by the evaluator. And then we finalize the evaluation, we draw the ranking list, and that's when we inform you about the results of the evaluation. I think I already explained actually that, yeah, I talked too fast. This is what I explained before. So RAISE proposal, we participate to the full. So the start of the procedure is exactly the same as for a DN proposal. And anyway, you compete for both, right? And then the cross-panel list of fundable RAISE proposals will be established with the highest ranking reserve list proposals for DN. So we take an enlarged reserve list of DN that opted in for RAISE. We move it to a different evaluation session, but that's technical. You don't need to, I mean, it's not very interesting for you. So we take 3 times the available budget, so 3 times 30 million, so around the equivalent of 90 million euros worth of reserve list proposal for DN that opted in for RAISE DN. And then the experts will check this one page of justification, how you fit with RAIN. You still compete for both, huh? And the final ranking of the RAISE DN of the RAISE proposal will be a mix between your DN score and how good you fit with how well you fit with the RAISE topic. To give an idea of scale, and this is from the previous call, so this is one of the largest calls within Horizon Europe in terms of budget. So last year was a bit more than 600 million. This year is a bit less, but it's more or less around 600 million. And last year we received 1,616 proposals, out of which 141 were selected for funding, because even though there is a lot of budget, we couldn't fund more than 141 proposals. So you see the competition is quite high, and this enables all the doctoral networks to recruit bit more than 2,100 doctoral candidates. And just to give you an idea of the scale, this involved more than 1,400 experts, so independent external experts, and from our side, from REA side, over 50 staff, 50 project officers. So this is a large endeavor. How to apply? Well, of course, it was a very good idea to attend this seminar here. Other than that, there's a guide for applicant, the DN-2026 guide for applicant, that's available in the funding and tender portal. So you go to funding and tender portal, you type doctoral networks in the search engine, and you click on the link. And at the bottom, you will see links to many different guidelines, one of which is the guide for applicant, one of which is also the proposal template. So there is 2 sections in the proposal template, one that is empty that you will fill in, and one with instructions inside, so that explains what you should fill in all the section of the template. You have the work program. You also have the work program of RAISE, and you also have the funding and tender manual on how to submit a proposal. So this is more for the technical detail, where to click, what to fill in where. And there is also a topic Q&A, and there is a FNT portal. So at the very bottom, there's a Q&A where you have Q&As. So the proposal is structured in 2 parts. The part A, which is structured data. These are things that you fill in the system directly, in the web-based system. where you will fill information about the budget, about the participants, ethics. You have an ethics self-assessment that you will need to fill in part A. And then you have a part B, and this is a PDF that you upload. So you have to follow the template of the part B. And the part B has actually two sections, part B1. So part B1 is the bulk of your proposal. That's where you will have the three sections: excellence, impact, implementation. And there is a page limit for that. It's 30 pages. But if we count the 4 preliminary pages, the cover page, table of content, list of participants, so that's 34 pages in total. If you submit a PDF of more than 34 pages, you can submit it, you will get a warning message, but what we receive is, let's say it's 40 pages, so like 6 pages will be blank. Okay, so the system just cuts it out. Also important to mention, if for some reason you don't put 4 but 2 preliminary pages and your proposal is 34 pages, we will ask experts to disregard the last 2 pages because that wouldn't be fair. I mean, the page limit is the 30 pages from the beginning of excellence to the end of implementation. There is a part B2 with a template for that as well, in which you need to fill in a number of information. And in part B, in section 11, don't kill me if it's section 12, but I'm pretty sure it's 11, you need to, if you're interested in RAISE DN, you need to fill this section justifying how your proposal fits the RAISE DN call. And we really advise you to have a close look at the topic description, because this assessment will really be how well you fit with the topic description of RAISE. So tips and tricks for your proposal preparation. First and foremost, read the guidance documents. The work program might be a bit dry, but we made it a bit nicer with the guide for applicant. Nevertheless, the work program is the legal basis for everything we do, so it contains a lot of additional information condensed in the guide for applicant. Use the proposal template. Novelties for this year: now the font size is 11 for everything, for text, for the main text, and for the tables. In the past, we would allow font size 9 for the tables, but now we have font size 11 for everything. It's really important. So you should not use a smaller font size to squeeze in more information than the 30 pages limit with a size 11 font. Read carefully the evaluation form. This is a basis on which you will be evaluated, and experts are instructed to evaluate you according to the evaluation form. Don't underestimate any part of the proposal, because, as we said earlier, it's a very competitive call. There is less than 10% success rate, so you need to be amazing everywhere, right? So it's not enough. It's necessary, but it's not enough to be outstanding in excellence if your implementation is not up to standards, right? So a word of caution: if you underestimate one part of the proposal, you don't put yourself in the best chances of getting funded. Write each section clearly and coherently with all sections of the proposal. It sounds like it goes without saying, but we know it's consortia-led proposal, so from time to time we see some sections that are incoherent with other sections. Please try to avoid that as much as possible. And then there's a second tips and tricks. One very good advice that we also heard many people say is that you should perform an internal peer review of your proposal, because you know how it is. I mean, after a while, when you're too close to your proposal, you don't see it anymore. So ask a second set of eyes to have a look at your proposal. Consult your national contact points. They are very, I mean, they know everything, and they can guide you, they can help you. Duly complete the part A. Start preparing early, and don't leave submission for the last minute. The deadline is 24th of November at 5 p.m. And every year there are some applicants who could not submit because they were 1 second late. But you know, dura lex, sed lex. I mean, if you're 1 second late, we cannot take you and that's it. So don't leave it for the last moment. You know how it goes. Submission system, last moment it gets more crowded. Give yourselves the best chances. Don't leave it for the last moment. And final words, think like an evaluator. So take the evaluation form and think, okay, if I was not attached to this proposal at all, and I would read the evaluation form and I would read my proposal, how would I evaluate it? So think like an evaluator, write for an evaluator. Really see what the evaluation is about, what they're looking for, and this is the criteria and sub-criteria, and write answering to that. Right? So use the proposal template, follow the instructions, and check the sub-criteria. Resources, part 2. So you have many other places you can find resources. So I would say, on the Funding and Technical Opportunities portal, if you go to the call page, here you have the links to all the different things. So this is the most important place to go. So there you can find the DN-2026 call document. So you have the template, the guide for applicants, things like that. I invite you to click there, but you can find the work program. You can find the topic description of RAISE. So all of these slides will be made available to you. You can click and have a look. Don't forget the guidelines on supervision and the code of conduct for the recruitment of researcher. This is very important for us. If you have any questions, contact your national contact point or contact the Research Inquiry Service or ask a question in Slido. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julien. So let's have 3 short frequently asked questions now before closing this part of the session. And let's see the first question about joint doctorates. Is it allowed to foresee and implement different fellowship duration within the same DN-JD proposal? Michaela?
Yes, thank you. So yes, the simple answer is yes, indeed. So you can have actually fellows recruited for 36 months or 48, and it's up to you to select what is best based on what the proposal you will submit.
Indeed. Thanks a lot, Michaela. The second question is, will the evaluation of the Horizon Europe MSCA industrial doctorates and joint doctorates differ from that of standard doctoral networks types of action? Julien?
So by and large, yes. So same criteria, same everything. Just be aware that there are some additional elements for joint doctorates. For instance, joint selection, supervision, all of that is not in the standard DN, and so this will be assessed as part of the supervision. That's 1.4 in excellence, I think. And the same goes for industrial doctorates. You should have joint supervision. That is not required in standard. So, these things will be also assessed. But other than that, it's the same. So for one panel, same budget, all proposals from different types of action in that panel, they compete against each other with the same evaluation criteria.
Thank you, Julien. Last question under RAISE DN 2026 call, is Canada automatically considered eligible for funding? And I think this one is for Sohail.
Yeah, nice question. So okay, the short answer is no. But to the benefit of the audience, maybe I'll give a little background of this story. Why is this question being made? Okay, now, I think Julien referred repeatedly to countries associated to Horizon Europe. These are countries, currently a bit over 20, that basically they're not from the EU, but somehow they joined the club that is Horizon Europe. And then by joining the club, they have more or less almost all the benefits that member states get. There are different ways of joining, of being an associated country, depending on your status, depending on the negotiations you do. But there are a few countries, Canada is one of them, that actually had a specific membership. That is not to all the 3 pillars. Remember at the very beginning, I showed this slide with the different pillars of Horizon Europe. And MSCA is in Pillar 1. Now, a few countries, including Canada, got associated only to Pillar 2. So for the RAISE networks, although the budget is coming from Pillar 2, the call mentions clearly that actually it follows the eligibility criteria of MSCA, which is Pillar 1. So this is why the short answer was no. But
Thanks.
It's a very good question. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sohail, indeed. Okay, so we are now at the end of the first part of this information session, and I hope you find all the useful information you need to prepare your proposal. I hope you also got to know a bit more about industrial doctorates, joint doctorates, types of action, and all the benefits you could get if you apply to them or to doctoral networks in general, but also to maximize your chances of funding in case your research topics matches a RAISE DN scope. Just let me maybe highlight a few important messages based on this morning presentations. So don't forget, first of all the incentives and simplification measures that were put in place for industrial doctorates and joint doctorates over the years. So you may remember that for industrial doctorates, since 2022, we are giving some more flexibility to the non-academic participants to participate either as beneficiary or as associated partner. So they don't need to recruit directly the fellows if they don't want to. Further simplification were introduced as well for joint doctorates as of 2023 and 2024 regarding the double and joint PhD degree, but also regarding the increased fellowship for the doctoral candidates and increased project duration up to 5 years. This year, we also increased the secondment duration in standard doctorate networks up to 50% of the fellowship duration, so to give you, again, some more flexibility in the setting of your network and project activities. And you should also not forget about the new flexibility as well given to beneficiaries from non-associated third countries regarding where they can enroll their recruited doctoral candidates for the PhD. And finally, a small but important change in the evaluation process regarding the threshold per criterion, now 3 out of 5, which can also have an impact on the evaluation of your proposal. So you can still submit questions on Slido if you have any doubts still on how to apply to the DN 2026 call. So for this, use the QR code on the screen or join slido.com with the hashtag DN 2026. Just a reminder that all the presentation you saw already this morning will be published on the RTD platform of the event. We will also publish all written answers to most frequent questions that we received today, also in case we cannot reply to all of them today. And just have a look before publishing or submitting a new question. Have a look at all previously submitted questions to avoid too many duplicates. Another reminder, in case we have and we receive 2 specific questions, we may reply only in writing to make sure we address all elements of your questions. And all of this and the recording of this event will also be available on the call page on the Funding and Tenders portal shortly after the event. So let's now start with the Q&A session of this MSCA Doctoral Networks 2026 Call Info event. And let's now go back to Slido. And let me again introduce our panelists with me to answer all your questions today together with me. So Michaela Bitsakis, so Head of Sector in the MSCA-DN units in the RIA, together with Julien Jordani, Co-Coordinator in the same unit in the RIA, and Sohail Luka, Senior Expert in the MSCA Policy Unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. So let's start with the first question. And the first question is about the rationale behind the size 11 font rule for tables. It severely cuts out our available space within strict page limits, forcing us to omit crucial details, even though the required information density remains the same. Julien, maybe you can answer this one?
I can take this one, yes. So the rationale basically is, if I could summarize, is abuse. Basically, there was a slippery slope with more and more applicants using table with font size 9, so inventing tables to squeeze in more information. So tables for the objectives of the project, tables for the training objectives and things like that. And at some point it became a bit too much, and we also got feedback from the NCPs. Actually, this was also a request from the NCPs, telling us that some applicants are a bit frustrated with that because they see others squeezing in many things with tables. So they told us maybe you should do something about that. And so we thought how to do it. There were several options. And we also talked to other funding schemes who had the same issue and how they fixed it. And there was the option of maybe just say that you can only you can only make tables for the ones that, the mandatory tables. But the other calls that did that, it didn't work. It didn't work, basically. People were just, the only thing that worked was to have one blanket single rule for everyone, which is, okay, now there's no advantages in having a table for, text density. So we decided that now it's just font size 11 for everything. So this is because there were too many abuses in the past of too many tables with font size 9, where it should have been main text. This is where it comes from. Now, of course, this is the same page limit for everyone. So maybe you can squeeze in less information, but your competitors, so to speak, they can squeeze in less information as well. So from our perspectives, it levels the playing field, and everybody has the same rule. It's clearer for everyone. That's where it comes from.
Thank you, Julien, for this complete answer. Let's move on to the next question. When filling in the template for Part B during the preparation of the proposal, can we remove all the text included with instructions on how to fill it in? Are there any instructions or information that should be kept in this document? Maybe I can take this one. Indeed, you should remove all the instructions, and actually in the proposal template available on the Funding and Tenders portal on the call page, you have the first version of the template with all the instructions, and at the very end you also have the empty proposal template. What is also available in the submission links is the empty proposal template. So, of course, we encourage you to use directly the empty template so that you don't need to delete yourself all the instructions.
Yeah, and that's important maybe to just say that when you go to the call page, you have the application form in PDF, but that's for information mainly. If you go to the link to submit a proposal, there would be another link to download the template in RTF version. So you don't need to take the PDF, transform it into a Word, and then rework on this. You just use the template that is in the submission. And here it's a RTF document. You can fill it in directly, and it's the first part is with instructions, the second part without instructions. You just keep the part without the instructions.
The next question. Can the budget of an MSCA-DN also cover the cost of a project manager who would be responsible for the overall management and coordination of the DN and projects? Who would like to answer this one? Yes, Michaela?
Yes. Okay, so as Julien explained, you have two types of contributions. So you have the contributions for the recruited researchers, and you have the institutional contributions, which include a management budget and a budget for research training and networking activities. So of course, in the management budget, which will be an envelope because it's a unit contribution, you can also include the cost of a project manager, and we highly recommend you to actually recruit one, because we have seen that for the project selected for funding, the added value of a project manager is really demonstrated.
Indeed. Thank you, Michaela. The next question is about what happens to the country correction coefficient if a beneficiary leaves the consortium and the PhD position needs to be moved to another beneficiary in another country. Who would like to answer this question? Okay. Michaela, yes?
So when the project is running, and if this happens, during the project implementation, unfortunately, we will need to recalculate the number of person months that can be moved from one country to another based on the country correction coefficient of each country. So it means, for example, that if a fellow was recruited in a country where the country correction coefficient was quite low, and then moved, for example, to a Scandinavian country, for example, where the country correction coefficient is very high, not all the 36 person months can be transferred, but only a part of it based on the new country correction coefficient. But if this happens actually during the grant agreement preparation, then we can increase the budget contribution. But this is only specific to a specific period before the signature of the grant agreement.
Thank you, Michaela. For the next question, will there be an adaptation of the institutional allowances as those costs for research and travel continue to rise, making the DNs more and more difficult to implement? Sohail, do you want to answer?
Yeah, this we don't know yet, because there is a study currently, because we decide on this based on large-scale studies, and there is a study that is currently in action, and hopefully towards, let's say, the end of the year we would have the results, and all actually the aspects related to the unit costs would be decided based on this study.
Thank you, Sohail. But indeed, for the call of this year, the allowances cannot be changed. The next question, are there any future plans of creating a budget category for the coordination of the consortium, as now the coordinators retain part of category B? I can try to reply to this question, although it's not directly focusing on the current DN26 goal. It's more for the future and for the next framework program. So everything is still under discussion, so it's a bit difficult to tell you if there will be a dedicated budget category for the coordination of the consortium. But feel free to send us some more feedback and ideas if you have, because it's still time for further discussion. Maybe Sohail, you want to comment?
Yeah, I just add that also this question is part of the ongoing study.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
True. Thank you. The next question. If the secondment can be 50% of the fellowship duration, how could this be financed? According to the financial guidelines, only secondments can be paid by B1 up to 6 months. We are facing difficulties if fellows goes for a longer duration. Julien, you want to answer?
Yes, I can answer that. Okay, first and foremost, yes, it can be up to 50%. Doesn't mean that it should. Every situation is different. Now, it's not. It could be for bits of less than 6 months at the time. It could be several smaller secondments. Now, what we always advise people is that, financing the secondments. That means basically arranging for travel and accommodation costs, but There are many universities, many places in which you have, deals or rooms for visiting researchers. So it doesn't need to be in a 5-star hotel, of course. You can do it like that, and it follows a bit the other rule of MSCA that the fellow should be treated with the same standards as any other fellow with the same condition. That would not be MSCA. And if you send someone as a visiting researcher to another institution, it's very unlikely you would ask a researcher that goes for 2 months to pay for 2 months of hotel, where he's sent there to do some work. So it has to be a bit common sense as well. So you can find ways. There are some deals with rooms available on campus, things like that, to host the fellow. The idea is that if the fellow lives for less than 6 months, they will probably not give up their apartment and get a new flat. So we don't want them to pay double rent. Now, if they go for more than 6 months, the idea is that they might, give up their flat to take a new one. But we also encourage you to pay for accommodation cost and travel cost, even if it's more than 6 months. And in any case, if you do it for the other people in your organization, you have to do it also for the doctoral candidate that you recruited. They must have the same working conditions. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that we push for good working conditions if you lower them for doctoral candidates.
Indeed, Julien. Thank you. I would like also to apologize because it seems that we have some network issues affecting your attendance on the YouTube channel. So we are very sorry for these issues, but do not worry. Everything is being recorded and you will have access to the recordings, all presentations, and also all answers in writing to most frequent questions also after the event. On the platform of the event. So sorry again for those issues. Let's move on to the next question. Can supervisors' expenses related to the project be covered from the research, training and networking costs?
I can take that.
Yes, Michaela?
So yes, the simple answer is yes. It's up to you to decide how to use those contributions. They need to be related, of course, to the project, and they need to be used in order to implement what you are proposing. But it's up to you to decide whether to cover, what expenses to cover. But of course, supervisory expenses, which are related to the project, can be covered.
Thank you, Michaela. Is there any preparatory budget or institutional support available for writing and coordinating an MSCA proposal before submission? So I can try to reply because I've seen in some NCP's events actually some information about that. So from our side, there is no such preparatory budget or support, but it seems that in some countries it is available. So it's not automatic in all countries, but I highly encourage you maybe to check first with your national contact points, and they may guide you also through those opportunities. The next question, the budget from this year in comparison to that of last year for doctoral networks has been divided between DN and RAISE, or you keep the same budget for DN than last year and you add a new extra budget for RAISE. So Hill, do you want to say something about it?
So the RAISE 30 million are extra. They come from another budget, not MSCA budget. Now, the first part of the question, the budget for DN is not the same as last year, but it's never the same every year. It changes. But I think the gist of the question is whether the RAISE money was carved out of the MSCA budget or not, and the answer is no. It's extra money that came on top.
Indeed, very important.
Yes.
Yeah, precision. Okay, so the next question is about will the RAISE DN proposal evaluated as a regular DN first, but then if not selected, the RAISE DN proposals will go an additional evaluation. Julien, you want to complement?
Yes, so RAISE DN will, a DN proposal that also opts in as a RAISE DN, they will first be evaluated as a regular DN. If they are ranked high enough, so not in the main list, but high enough, so we'll take an enlarged reserve list of DN proposals. So those would be evaluated as RAISE DN proposals. So an additional evaluation. So a proposal could end up, in the DN reserve list and in the RAISE DN main list, for instance. Then we assume you would probably, take the money and say thank you and take the RAISE DN funding. So technically that's possible, yes, but it's really important to understand that you apply to both. But we will consider only RAISE DN below the main list of DN. So that would be an enlarged reserve list that then will be evaluated for RAISE DN. And there will be two ranking lists, DN and RAISE DN, with a reserve list for both, and there could be some overlap because your proposal is essentially duplicated before it goes to the evaluation of RAISE, right? But you exist, in the multiverse with DN and RAISE.
Thank you, Julien. Will the RAISE call be available next year? Will there be other calls with extra funding for a specific panel in the future? So I can already confirm that for 2027 call, we will not have a RAISE DN pilot call. So this was a pilot for 2026 call. Let's see if in the future we will have additional initiatives like this. Sohail, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it was a pilot, so for 2026. For 2027, there are no specific plans either for RAISE or another themes, let's say. And then after 2027, there is, I don't know, the future is different because Horizon Europe finishes. So there, of course, it's beyond the knowledge of anybody right now.
Indeed. Thank you, Sohail. So the next question is, what is the best way to document supervision commitment? Who wants to answer this one? Julien?
Yes. I assume you're referring to, one of the evaluation sub-criteria is the supervision. So how the supervision is organized, what is the competence and the background of the supervisors, and the commitment that they put in the supervision of the doctoral candidates that they will recruit later on in the project. I don't know if even we should explain what is the best way to do it, because this is a call for proposal, it's a competition. But in the excellence part, you have to explain the supervision arrangements that will be put in place. You have to explain what the competence and background of the supervisors, and you should also, and that's in part B2. There are tables there. There is no page limit on part B2, by the way. So use font 11, so it's more legible. But that's just for part B2. We don't really care about the font. But here you would have to put the time commitment that you would put on the fellow. So we're not going to give you numbers, but it would make sense that if a supervisor has already many other fellows and puts a very limited time commitment for the doctoral candidate, that would probably not, compared to another one who has less fellows and puts more time into the supervision. I have an idea how this will be comparatively assessed. So, but beside that, Yeah.
Yes, so what we can also advise you is to have a look at the MSCA supervision guidelines that were also recently revised and published. So have a look at them, because it will give you also some tips and very good advice, some best practices also on how to best implement supervision arrangements. Okay, so with this question, I think we are now at the end of the first part of the Q&A session, and let's have a short 10-minute break and resume the session in 10 minutes. So stay tuned. See you.
The aspect I'm most proud of, if I look at the first 30 years of the MSCA program, is the community that the program has been able to build. Over 150,000 recipients, 24,000 of which are gathered together in the Alumni Association. And this is a fantastic community that testifies the value of the program, because it's a community that crosses borders, disciplinary borders, geographical borders, sectorial borders.
So, happy birthday, MSCA. Please, my wishes for you is, or it's more of a request, stay focused on the brilliance of the young minds and grow as far and as large as you can, because your work is so tremendously important.
So what we wish for the future, and I think what is also crucial and fundamental for MSCA is to keep our bottom-up approach, meaning that we still need to give this freedom in research and let the researchers choose freely their research topic.
I wish for the MSA program to become even more inclusive, because inclusion has been a fantastic trait, a defining trait, but it could be even more. In this situation, global situation, inclusivity is so crucial, and the MSCA program can become a beacon over the next 30 years for openness, inclusivity, and fostering groundbreaking research.
I hope the future of MSCA will be more focused on outreach activities, because outreach activities make science sustainable on the long term, which I think is what we need in this very moment.
So yeah, I just wish to the MSCA to be able to fund as much people as possible that can enjoy what I've been able to enjoy, and also to stay very bottom-up approach, because this is where we can trigger the most creative mind.
The aspect I'm most proud of, if I look at the first 30 years of the MSCA program, is the community that the program has been able to build. Over 150,000 recipients, 24,000 of which are gathered together in the Alumni Association. And this is a fantastic community that testifies the value of the program because it's a community that crosses borders, disciplinary borders, geographical borders, sectorial borders.
So, happy birthday, MSCA. Please, my wishes for you is, or it's more of a request, stay focused on the brilliance of the young minds and grow as far and as large as you can because your work is so tremendously important.
So what we wish for the future, and I think what is also crucial and fundamental for MSCA is to keep our bottom-up approach, meaning that we still need to give this freedom in research and let the researchers choose freely their research topic.
I wish for the MSA program to become even more inclusive because inclusion has been a fantastic trait, a defining trait, but it could be even more. In this situation, global situation, inclusivity is so crucial, and the MSCA program can become a beacon over the next 30 years for openness, inclusivity, and fostering groundbreaking research.
I hope the future of MSCA will be more focused on outreach activities because outreach activities make science sustainable on the long term, which I think is what we need in this very moment.
So yeah, I just wish to the MSCA to be able to fund as much people as possible that can enjoy what I've been able to enjoy, and also to stay very bottom-up approach because this is where we can trigger the most creative mind.
Welcome back to our Horizon Europe MSCA Doctoral Networks 2026 Call Information event. We are now in the last part of the Q&A session, and let's move directly to the next question in Slido. So the next question is, some universities are not entitled to offer a PhD position for less than 4 years. In case of a conventional DN covering only 3 years, such university should find financing for the 4th year. Should this be mentioned in the proposal? Who would like to answer this one? Michaela? Yeah?
I can answer that. So, I mean, it's very good that you actually find financing for the first year. And of course, you should mention it in the proposal. That's a very good practice.
Indeed. Thank you, Michaela. The next question is, which is the average or a reasonable number of doctoral candidates that each beneficiary can host or usually host? Is this number different for the coordinator? Is a high rate of doctoral candidates per beneficiary penalized? Julien, do you want to answer this one?
I can take that one, yes. Firstly, you would be anyway restricted by the 40% budget rule. So any country cannot have more than 40% of the budget, of the overall budget. So this would prevent usually an organization from having, I don't know, 5-6 doctoral candidates. I mean, that would not fit with this budget rule. So there is no different number for the coordinator. So this is, we talked about the fact that supervision was assessed before. So of course, it's a case-by-case basis. So if you host more fellows, but you have the supervision power is not the right word, but the capacity. Thank you. The capacity to supervise all of them, then that won't be penalized. But of course, if you're trying to bite more than you can chew, and you don't convince the evaluators that you have the capacity to supervise, this number of fellows, yes, this can be penalized in the evaluation under excellence. Yes.
Indeed, Julien. The next question, can a consortium be penalized for having non-academic and industrial entities only as associated partners and not as beneficiaries? Sohail, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think what counts is the way every partner, be it associated or beneficiary, is justified into the proposal, that the roles assigned and the commitments are optimized in order to reach the scientific and training objective of the project as a whole. So there isn't any rule that would say that not being beneficiary in non-academia would penalize the project.
Indeed. And this is also true for industrial doctorates, where you have the full flexibility for non-academic participants to participate either as beneficiary or associated partner. The next question, how will the final decision be taken for the RAISE projects given the differences among the panel thresholds? How will the relevance of these proposals to the AI topic will be assessed, and by whom, which panel experts? Maybe Julien, you can complement based on the information that you already gave.
Yes. So I think this was already partly covered before, but yes, I mean the final decision for RAISE is a mix between the score of DN and the relevance to RAISE. Yes, there are some differences among the panel threshold, but the differences are less and less different. And how this will be assessed, it will be assessed by experts, and this will be a cross-panel of experts. So not only engineering experts, if that was the question behind, it's really a cross-panel experts that will assess a cross-panel list of proposals.
And maybe just to complement about the differences between panels. So what we will take is a reserve list, so bigger reserve list per scientific panel. So meaning that there will be all panels will be represented in the cross-panel rank list of potential RAISE proposals. So this is also important to mention that this representation will be proportionate also to the size of each scientific panels based on the number of submitted proposals in each of these scientific panels. The next question, can I submit a proposal on same topic as last year if the old proposal scored 75%, keeping title, but with substantial changes in beneficiaries, objectives, and doctoral candidates projects? How do you assess if it is sufficiently different from prior submission? Who would like to answer this one? Michaela or Julien?
I could take it if you want. So this is defined in the work program. You need substantial, whether or not you declare that your proposal is a resubmission, we will check each and every proposal for which there's a sufficient overlap of beneficiaries, right? So if it's more than 70% overlap, we will analyze it to see if it was a resubmission or not. How do we assess if it's sufficiently different from prior submission? We ask experts. So, and last year, because it was the first year that this 70%, that the rules were clear in the work program, we had both cases, basically. We had cases where experts said that, no, it's not, the objectives and the projects are not sufficiently different, and this proposal was deemed ineligible, and some other cases where it was sufficiently different. Of course, some beneficiaries are large, so you could have, the same beneficiaries, but they tackle something completely different. So there's a first filter from our side if we see that the proposal really has nothing to do with it, but it's just that the beneficiaries are large institutions, and 70% of them are the same, but it's just tackles a completely different subject. We will not ask an expert for that, but when it's a bit more doubtful, then we ask an expert that provides a report, and we document that, and we base the eligibility results on this report.
And then maybe just to complement that, based on the result of this analysis done by external experts, the final decision and the final recommendations on the eligibility of the proposal is also discussed during an eligibility committee, and the authorizing officer has a final decision to follow or not the recommendation. But last year we had indeed a few cases that were declared ineligible for this reason. The next question, is there any training or onboarding for coordinators, assistants handling project administration, especially for those taking on the role for the first time? So maybe I can comment on this question and try to give you at least part of the answer. In-house, from our side, we don't have such training, but of course you have already all the material and the guidance documents that are available on our call page in the Funding and Tenders portal, where you can already find a lot of information. However, if it's not enough, you always have the support from the national contact points, but also from the working group of project managers from under the MSCA Alumni Association, MSCA Alumni Association under their umbrella. And they are also, they have created a large network since a few years now of project coordinators and project managers, and they exchange a lot of best practices. They organize a lot of workshop seminars where they can help new coordinators or project managers. So I highly encourage you also to contact this working group. They will be more than happy to help you and guide you through the process. Maybe Sohail, yes?
And not only, also not only to contact them for help, but to become
yes,
part
as
of
well.
this community.
Indeed, yes.
Because if you are a new project manager for an MSCA project, then you can become actually part of this group and part of this community, and it's a wonderful wonderful resource.
Indeed, yes.
If I may add also, if they are selected for funding, there's also the Coordinators Information Day, which will happen, where all the processes will be explained. And then you have the project officer, who is also the first person whom they can contact and who can explain all the rules, procedures, and what is expected.
Yes,
So
yes, indeed.
yeah.
Once this project is selected for funding, indeed, you have also from our side a bit more of guidance and support. Indeed, yes. Thank you, Michaela, for complementing as well, and Sohail as well. The next question: is there a minimum period to qualify as secondment? Julien, do you want to answer?
Yes. A simple answer is no. So the secondment is not defined with the minimum period. That was the case, I think, long time ago. There was short visit secondments. It's no longer the case. There is no minimum period. For secondments, there's a ceiling, so you cannot do more than, for standard DN, more than 50%. So it's not really a minimum. But then what you promised in the proposal, be sure that what you promised in the proposal you can do in the project, of course. But there's no minimum period. No.
There's no real minimum, but I think we still make the difference between secondments and short visits. And I think you have this mentioned also in the guide for applicants, or in the work program maybe. But there is one of the guidance documents where we explain the difference between a short visit and a secondment, where we expect physical mobility at another partner of the consortium, and some work and objective to be done as well during this secondment, rather than a short visit of a few days just to observe what is going on at another partner. The next question, so when planning different scientific work packages, would it be sufficient if each doctoral candidate is associated with one of them, or do we need to prove more collaboration by making sure that each doctoral candidate contributes to multiple scientific work packages? Who would like to answer this one?
I can try to do it. This individual research project should be interconnected and fit into an overall research project, in the sense that it's not, let's imagine that you have 15 fellows, it's not 15 completely separated research project at the PhD level that you're conducting. It's a network. Now, collaboration, you can prove collaboration, whether they contribute to different work packages or not, the way that you present different strands of the individual research project and how they fit with the overall picture, that's sufficient. Whether formally speaking they contribute to multiple scientific work packages is not that important. But also to say that it's not that each fellow should do everything, right? Collaboration is that maybe there's some results from one fellow that could feed into a part of another fellow's research project, for instance. But it's not as if all fellows, they need to do everything. There should be a coherent research project for them with a clear goal, clear objectives, because at the end of the day, they need to have their PhD published and so on. So I don't know if...
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Julien. So the next question is, do you recruit evaluation experts that have a career in research management in academia but are not academics? Profiles like project managers, innovation managers, for example. So do we have such profiles among our experts? I can try to reply to this one maybe. Since we need a lot of scientific expertise to be able to evaluate and assess doctoral networks proposals, we do request all our expert evaluators to have an expertise in research in the scientific domains tackled by the proposals and depending on the different scientific panels that we have. It's not enough to just have an experience in project management. So project managers could eventually be selected as external experts only if they have scientific expertise as well. So we also check that they have enough publications, that they are also still active in research. So this is also something important since they have to assess doctoral programs. So they also need some experience in those doctoral programs. On the other hand, we also need some non-academic background and experience. So on that, we also have a proportion of among our experts from the non-academic sector, where they should have some scientific expertise, not necessarily as high in terms of academic level as the experts from the academic sector, but we do request scientific expertise for all of them. The next question are evaluators able to read a proposal, old and new version, if that proposal has been resubmitted? This is indeed a very important question. Julien, do you want to?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, and that's kind of a common misconception about resubmission. Evaluators will never read your previous proposal. They will never have access to your previous proposal. All proposals are evaluated as such the way they are presenting here. So it's always a de novo evaluation, right? For resubmission, what happens is that if a similar proposal was submitted in the past 2 years in doctoral networks, then at some point in the process, after they agreed actually in the consensus, because there's a rule also that says that the previous evaluation report should not unduly influence the current evaluation. So they will never compare the previous one to the new one. They don't even have access to the previous proposal. What they will have access to, after they agreed on the consensus text and score, they will have access to the previous evaluation report. And this is more, if you wish, an additional information for quality control. So if they see something that is discordant between the previous and the current evaluation, it doesn't mean that the current evaluation is wrong. And how could they check that? Because they don't have the previous proposal. But what they do is that they double check that the current assessment is correct. So if there's something in the 2026 evaluation that contradicts something in 2025, they will have access to the previous report. They will double check that the current evaluation is correct. And if they think it's correct, even though it contradicts previous evaluation, they will say, okay, we stand by our ground because for whatever reason, this is a valid comment. Could be that they were wrong the last time, right? But it's important to realize that evaluators don't have access to the previous proposal. The fact to have a previous submission does not give, that would give unfair advantages to previous people who submitted, and that would not be fair. We wouldn't want that. So by design, they don't compare previous and current proposal. Only ESR, but just to guide them to check if there's a contradiction, to make sure that what they say this year is correct.
Thank you, Julien, for this important comment as well. Is there a general database where applicants can find hosting institutions? I'm not sure to understand the question. So if the question is about where applicants can find other partners to build their consortium, Sohail?
Well, I mean, if the word hosting institutions is mentioned, so we are talking about individuals.
Yes.
So here, the question might be coming from a prospect doctoral candidate who would like to find a hosting institute to start his or her PhD. And in this case, yes, and it's a big yes, it's the EURAccess portal. So any vacancy from MSCA in general and of course doctoral networks must be published on EURAccess. So if it exists, it will be on EURAccess. So this is the answer. Yeah, there is the database and it's called EURAccess.
Indeed, as a potential doctoral candidate applicants, yes. And if you are searching for new partners, there is also the partner search possibility on the Funding and Tenders portal. Is there a platform? No, okay. How many RAISE doctoral networks do you think will be granted based on the 30 million euro budget? So based on the average size of the DN proposals that we receive now, we estimate that maybe around seven RAISE doctoral networks could be selected for funding. But again, it all depends on the size of the proposals that will be included in the RAISE rank list. The next question. If I understand well, proposals below the cutoff for a standard DN call may be eligible for funding if they fit with the AI topics and be funded under the RAISE scheme. So, who would like to repeat again, maybe? Yes, Julien?
Yeah, this is, your understanding is correct. That's basically it. So if they are below the cutoff, but still quite high, because you've seen, I mean, the success rate is less than 10%. So a proposal that would be in the reserve list for DN is already a very good proposal. So it's already a very, very good proposal. So these proposals, so around 3 times the budget. So Audrey mentioned 7, maybe 8 proposals, so multiply by 3. So that would be around, let's say, 30 proposals from all the panels in the reserve list of all the panels. So this would be a cross-panel list of proposals that would be assessed for RAISE. So it's still very high, score. So these proposals, they have an additional chance to be funded with RAISE.
Thank you, Julien. The next question. Font size must be 11 points for all parts of the proposal. The reference font is Times New Roman, but are other fonts such as Calibri or Arial Narrow allowed, or should we strictly use Times New Roman to avoid any risk of non-compliance? Who would like to answer this question? I can try to to reply to this one. So we highly encourage you to follow the instructions in terms of font size and type of font as well. We can accept some other type font as long as they are legible. So Arial Narrow is usually not a very legible font. And you have also, as Julien mentioned at the end of this presentation, you have to think like an evaluator and you have to write for an evaluator. So think about an evaluator if he cannot really read correctly your proposal. So it's not something that we would advise. Using a font size that would kind of overcome the page limit would then trigger some further checks from our side, where we will need to contact the applicants to ask them to reformat the proposal according to the right font and the right font size. So this is a very cumbersome procedure, and if you can avoid it, it's always better. The next question: can MSCA Doctoral Network's institutional costs be used to employ a postdoc for coordination or training, or is postdoc employment outside the eligible DN budget? Michaela?
can take this one. So actually, the use, as I said before, the use of institutional costs is actually the responsibility of the consortium, and it's really to implement the project as it was submitted and evaluated. So if you believe that employing a postdoc for coordination or training activities which are related to the project is actually beneficial for you, so you can actually go ahead and use that budget. That's not a problem.
Of course, it should not be detrimental to all the activities you have foreseen in the project, so you should still have some budget left to implement all the activities. The next question is, how may the host institution use the Category B funds to cover supervisors' time spent on supervision? And can these funds be used to compensate researchers for the time they spend organizing project-related events and activities?
I can
Michaela,
continue with
yes?
what you said. So actually, again, I mean, the use of institutional contributions is really the responsibility of the consortium. So of course, they can cover the supervision's time spent on supervision, and they can also help compensate researchers for the time they have spent organizing project-related events and activities. So it's a big envelope you will receive, and with that envelope, you need to actually implement everything which was foreseen in the proposal. So it's up to you really to define how to best use the budget. And what we will verify at the end is, of course, that the project was implemented as it was foreseen and, of course, evaluated.
So in other words, don't tell us at some point that you run out of budget to do what you said you would do because you paid the supervisors, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, it should not be detrimental also to all the other activities foreseen for the doctoral fellows. Yeah, indeed. The next question is about doctoral networks joint doctorates with 3 universities. Is it required that all of them award joint degrees, or can each award a separate single degree? Who would like to answer this one?
Yeah, I can take it. I mean, they can also award separate single degrees. So here, that would be called multiple, because we say joint degrees, meaning either a joint doctorate, that is 1 diploma with all the universities listed on it. Usually it's 2, but of course it can be 3. Or multiple, which means that the doctoral candidate would have 2, in this case 3 different diplomas, 1 from each university.
Indeed. Thank you, Sohail. The next question, in the funding application for doctoral networks, how detailed do the joint admission and supervision measures need to be? Who would like to answer this one? Julien?
Sure, I can do it. So, I mean, joint admission, that's for JDs only.
Yes.
Right, that's not for a standard DN.
Yes.
So, joint admission and supervision, I mean, this is a part in B2 where you have to explain the joint admission and supervision measures for JD. So for just to repeat, for DN, you don't need joint admission. You can do it if you want, but it's not required. Joint supervision is only for JDs and IDs, not for standard doctoral networks. Then how detailed they can be, I mean, this is it's a bit difficult to reply to that because you have to factor in the page limit and the other parts that you need to develop. Sorry, so yes, I'm afraid I don't have a really satisfactory reply.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to reply with more details on this one. In the next question, we are now running a joint doctoral network and will apply for another joint doctoral network. Is it a problem if we work with very similar partners as before? What should we take into account when handling in a follow-up application with an existing consortium? Who would like to take this one?
I can take it. Okay. Let's exclude one scenario if this is about resubmission or not. So let's first of all let's assume the question refers to resubmission. Okay. So number one, if the score was above 80% in the year X, then for the year X plus 1, there is no issue in resubmitting in any form and composition. Same consortium, same topic, whatever. With the assumption that it was less than 80%, then the procedure that Julia referred to will apply. That is, first we'll look at similarity in the consortium composition. If it is more than 70%, this is only as a screening measure. Then experts would look at the objective of the proposal and the way to reach this objective. And if it is similar to the one before, then this is resubmission and it cannot be done. Now, if this is not about resubmission, then actually there are no restrictions at all. You just design the project and the joint, it can be, whichever topic, regardless the project's joint doctors that you worked on in the years before.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Sohail, for the comprehensive answer. In the next question, in DN, must we have more than one university awarding the degree, or is it acceptable to have only one institution awarding the degree? Who would like to take this one? Julien?
I could take it. As far as we're concerned, there is nothing that forbids you to have only one institution awarding the degree, but you might run into trouble yourself, because if you have fellows, in a different country, sometimes for the degree awarding institution, they have some, standards of, that the fellow should, attend some training. They need some ECTS sometimes. They should be present. So maybe that would need, a lot of back and forth from the fellow, to go to the institution awarding the degree. So it might not be the best setting that you can think of. It's okay, but for us, but be careful that it is in practice feasible for your project.
Indeed, and maybe for smaller projects, it could work, but for bigger size projects, indeed, it would be a lot of trouble.
But maybe to add that you can also have degree awarding institutions as associated partners.
Yes.
If you cannot find universities that maybe they don't want to be a beneficiary because, I don't know, for whatever reason, and you just need them to award the degree. It's not a small feat, but they could be there as associated partner, and then they could be closer, locally, to where the fellow actually does his or her PhD.
Yes, thank you, Julien, for the compliment. You mentioned that third countries can now recruit doctoral candidates from within the same country. Not exactly, but did I hear that correctly? Does this go against the MSCA principle of mobility? No, I think there might have been some confusion here. We said that now non-associated third countries that are participating as beneficiary, they recruit a doctoral candidate that will be eligible, so meaning that they will have to undergo and fulfill all the eligibility conditions, meaning including the mobility condition. And the novelty for this year is that the third country beneficiary will be able to enroll this doctoral candidate in the doctoral program in this country. Before, we would ask them to enroll them in a PhD program based in EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. So this is the flexibility introduced now for this year. The next question, are all types of doctoral networks, including IDs and JDs, part of the same pool for evaluation, resulting in one common ranking list?
Yeah, I can take it. So I assume, because this we clarified before, but I assume if the question is there is maybe to clarify. So yes, all types of actions, so DN, JD, IDs, they compete. But when you say one common rank list, it's one rank list per scientific panel. Okay, so there is one rank list for math, one rank list for engineering, one for life science. And within this panel rank list, so a DN and an ID and a JD submitting a proposal, each a proposal in life, they will all compete within life. But an ID in life doesn't compete with a DN in engineering, for instance. That no.
Indeed. And just maybe to give you some more information about how the budget is distributed among those scientific panels. So the budget is based on the number of submitted and eligible proposals per scientific panels. So this will be fully proportionate to the number of submitted proposals in each scientific panel. The next question, how may the host institution...
We had that.
We had already this one.
Ah, yes, this one, yes, indeed. Thank you for spotting it before me. So the next question maybe. So in Slido, if we could move to the next question, since this one was already replied. Is it possible to recruit a doctoral candidate already enrolled in an existing PhD program for a shorter fellowship within a DN? Michaela?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as Julien said in his presentation, I mean, in order for a researcher to be eligible, he needs to be a doctoral candidate. It means that he shouldn't be in a possession of a doctoral degree. Now, it's true that a DC already enrolled in an existing PhD, but not having obtained a PhD, could be considered eligible, but it's really not in the spirit of the program. And this is something which we would not really advise you to do. The idea is to offer researchers with a full fellowship program, with a full enrollment to a PhD, and not use them for a shorter fellowship within a DN where they wouldn't be able to integrate, where you will have a short individual research project which wouldn't match the rest of the individual research projects. So it's really not something which we would recommend to do and which is in the spirit of the program.
Thank you, Michaela. The next question, can associated partners be the co-supervisor of a doctoral candidate, so not the host institution, but an official supervisor of the doctoral candidate? So to this one, Julien?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So they can be co-supervisor. So can they be co-supervisor but supervisor? So this is what I don't get. But associated partners, there can be a co-supervisor of a doctoral candidate from the associated partner. Now, the main supervisor of the doctoral candidate should be the one belonging to the institution that recruited him, because the institution, the beneficiary, has to host and supervise within the institution. So I guess you would not have somebody from an associated partner come to the institution and supervise them. I mean, that would be a bit weird. So they can be co-supervisor, but not main supervisor, if that was the question.
Except maybe for industrial doctorates, since the non-academic sector could participate fully as an associated partner as well, they would be, in this case, one of the official co-supervisors as well for the doctoral candidate. Okay, the next question is if a third country can be a beneficiary in these low to middle income countries. A high income third country recruits a DC, they would be expected to fund the DC, and then they could be additional to the maximum 540 personnel of the project. Okay, maybe I can try to reply to this question. So in case a third country from the low to middle income third countries in the list available on the Horizon Europe program guide, then yes, they could participate as beneficiary and receive automatically EU funding. Now, if they are in the high income third country, so not listed in this program guide, it means that they would, at proposal stage, be beneficiary, maybe asking for budget, and then be assessed by our expert evaluators if this exceptional funding request is justified and should be approved or not. In case it's not positively evaluated by the experts, then those beneficiaries could participate as associated partner with their own funds, meaning that in those cases they could eventually recruit their own doctoral candidate, but with their own funds and outside the system, so outside the envelope of 540 person months. Okay, so I think we are now at the end of this information session for the DN 2026 call. So we have tried to reply to many of your questions, maybe not all of them, and we are sorry for not having too much time to reply to all of them, but we will try to publish in writing the answers to all the main and frequent questions that you submitted today. Everything, all the presentation will also be available on the RTD platform. The event has been fully recorded, and the full recording will also be available on the platform shortly after the event. A link to the event will be added also to the call page for DN and RAISE DN calls on the funding and tenders portals. And before closing this event, I would like to thank you, all of you, again for your very active participation and attendance to this event today. Sorry again for the few technical and network issues that we experienced on the platform and on YouTube, but please don't hesitate to go back to the event and to the recording for any missing parts that you missed today. And I would like also to thank all my colleagues with me here today, all the speakers, so Michaela, Julien, Sohil, but also all my colleagues involved in the organization of this event, Shana, Emma, Sandrine, and all the colleagues also from the RTD studio. A big thank you to all for the great organization. And let me finish with 5 final tips before closing the event, and that you can take when preparing your proposal. So first of all, read the guidance. This is very important, and Julien mentioned everything you need to look at when preparing your proposal. The second one is follow the template. This is crucial because every year we have some proposals using the wrong templates, and this is not helping for the evaluators as well when they have to assess against many other competing proposals. Write clearly, like for an evaluator as well. Submit on time, and please respect the deadline. Don't leave it for the last minute. Every year we have unfortunate cases where the submission did not go through because you submitted too late. And perform always a final check, even after your submission, to make sure that your proposal looks like what you want to have in the system. And with that, I wish you, and we all wish you, all the best. Thank you.